Hi, this is Allan, host of CPG Launch Leaders. Today, I'm beyond excited to revisit one of my all-time favorite episodes. A couple of months ago, Darcy and I interviewed Gail Becker, the visionary founder of CAULIPOWER, and learned all about how she's expanding an empire built on healthy solutions. What struck me most about Gail was how in touch she is with her shoppers. For her, innovation is personal, and this gives her an advantage over much bigger players. So let's dive deep into the incredible journey of CAULIPOWER and enjoy the show.
You're listening to CPG Launch Leaders, the show where we interview new product trailblazers. Get ready for inspiration and secrets from the front lines of CPG innovation. Now here are our hosts, Darcy Ramler and Allan Peretz.
Gail, we're beyond excited to have you on our episode today to share your story about your brand, CAULIPOWER, and the launch of it. Before we dive in, we like to start every episode with one question. Currently, what new product has caught your attention in the market?
I'm so happy to be here. What a great question. I'm going to give an answer which probably might be a little bit obvious given that it's me, but I'm a little bit obsessed with the Uni pizza ovens. I love anything that makes pizza an everyday occasion. And so I just love that America wants more pizza and wants to make it themselves. And our crust just happened to fit in there. So it's great. I really am obsessed with it.
Gail, my wife and son both have celiac disease, so we're very familiar with your brand. They wanted to make sure I said thank you to you personally.
Thank you. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the launch back in 2017. Can you tell us a bit about the inspiration and what got you into this?
Sure. So I actually started the company in 2016 in a very dingy office in my house. And the inspiration was really three things that happened at the same time. One, the realization that that frozen food needed to have more nutrients, needed to be more accessible, just needed to be healthier overall. Two, my frustration with corporate life. I had worked in it for many years and I sort of just really was looking for something new. And three was the passing of my father, who was an immigrant, came to this country with nothing and built a small business. And when he passed, something inside me really changed. And I knew I wanted to do something more meaningful. So I put all of those things together. And, what I came out with was, I think I'm going to start a frozen food company called CAULIPOWER and leave my job and, bet my life on a vegetable. At the time, it sounded like a good idea. Now I don't know. But that's what I did back in 2016. And then we launched into market in early 2017.
Like you said, in 2017, there were definitely a lot of recipes out there on the internet for cauliflower pizza crust and so forth. So I know when we've talked, you said it wasn't like I'm reinventing the wheel here, but what was the one thing that made you think, hey, I can do this. I can bring it to market. Consumers really want it. Where was that aha moment for you?
It was really about time, to be honest with you, because I was always looking for ways, like I think a lot of parents, to, make their kids' meals more nutritional. I am the mom of two boys with celiac disease. And I noticed that the industry was putting a lot of junk in gluten-free food. And I sort of thought someone would do something about it. No one ever did. I stumbled across cauliflower-crust pizzas on the internet. You're right. The day that I made my first, and by the way, only cauliflower-crust pizza from scratch was I picked a recipe on the internet. There were 569,000 that day. I made it one time. It was okay, not great. And a couple weeks later, my eldest son said, hey, Mom, are you ever going to make that again? And I said, there's no way I'm making that again, because it took 90 minutes to make a pizza crust after I got home from a full day of work. And I looked for it everywhere. I looked in like Whole Foods and retailers and online, and I couldn't find it. And that was really my aha moment was, I can't be the only person that thinks 90 minutes is too long to make a pizza crust after you get home from a full day of work. Plus, I also had this notion like, wow, the industry is really not giving people what they want if they're forced to spend 90 minutes to make something from scratch. And that was really the light bulb moment that thought, maybe this could be something.
As a mom of two, I can definitely say the value of time is truly priceless. So it can drive a lot of innovation and ambition for sure.
Exactly.
So, Gail, you have your two sons who have celiac. That was the inspiration for this, but this is not just a celiac product, is it?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, obviously the vast majority of people who buy CAULIPOWER don't eat gluten-free. And that was really by design. As they were growing up, I always had to make like 2 different meals. They were embarrassed to give their friends the gluten-free pizza. I had to give them regular pizzas. And it was that realization that, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could all just eat the same thing, even if we all had different reasons for eating it and choosing that way of eating? What I thought was, and this is how CAULIPOWER is today, we make great tasting, better for you food that happens to be gluten-free. We are not a gluten-free brand. We have never been a gluten-free brand. We just happen to make gluten-free food. But most importantly, it's just better food that tastes great.
A lot of times, brands are leading with the opposite. They're leading with being a gluten-free brand. So I love that the strategy is actually on the reverse side when it comes to your brand.
A lot of companies focus in on a particular market, a particular trend, which is all fine and well, and you can build great businesses like that. That was just never my vision for the business. My vision for the business, and which is very much tied into our mission, which is giving people more access to great tasting, healthier food. It was really quite that simple. Everywhere we turn, there seems to be divisiveness. I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could just all share from the same plate? If there was one thing that sort of united us, our love of food, we all need to eat. It is the great unifier. And we all love great tasting food.
And as you say, usually you think about a dinner table or somewhere you sit down as a family or with people. It is where you share experience and commonalities. So to have a plate where everybody can eat off of is a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. I love it.
Now, before your entrepreneurial path, you were in marketing, correct, Gail?
Yes. I was in marketing and the business of marketing.
Okay, perfect. So this was a new path, obviously, you set forth, like you said, at 2016, diving into all of that for the first time and also being a mom and everything that you had going on. Take us through the process of developing something like this for the first time in a category to go to market with it, from your product development, customer insights, anything you want to share.
I probably didn't have enough customer insights, to be honest with you. I did a little bit of research. I couldn't afford to do too much. But I basically did what my parents always taught me to do, which is if you don't know something, you learn. You have someone teach you. And that's really what I did. I hired some consultants, people who've been in the food business for a lot of years, to teach me the business. We would go to stores together. They would tell me how I go about finding a co-manufacturer, someone to actually make the product, someone to guide me through that process. And I was like a sponge. And quite frankly, I'm still a sponge. When I think back to my time in corporate America, and I think like a lot of people who pick another journey or start another path or whatever stage in life, the day you stop learning is the day you need to leave. One thing I have loved about building CAULIPOWER is like just this constant showering of information and data and insights and people. It's been magnificent.
So did you have a picture in your head about your ideal shopper and who they were? And if so, how's that changed, if at all?
Yeah, it's a great question. I certainly do today. I probably didn't have it as clearly in the beginning, although I think like any good startup, we could pivot pretty quickly. I think a lot of startups, they sort of wait for everything to be perfect and then they go for it. And that's great. And that is definitely a way. But part of being a successful entrepreneurial startup is to really take in information as much as you're giving out. And that's what I really tried to do. I didn't know at the time that we'd be going, to, a whole, different platforms of products. There were a lot I didn't know about my consumer, but I did know this. I knew she would be more female than male. And that's true today, although certainly we see more males buying CAULIPOWER every day, especially through the diversification of our portfolio. And she is interested in health. She is interested in taste, and she's interested in saving time because she's busy and she wants to spend time doing other things, doing things she really loves. And if CAULIPOWER can help her do that, that was our consumer back when we started, and it's still our consumer today.
So with that, when you're launching a product that has such a unique positioning, who did you identify as your competition? I know you were a little bit first to the market with it, but you had to definitely look at other competitors, correct?
Well, it's interesting. We were first to market and we created the category. So, I love when people say today, oh, who was your competitive set back then? There was none. There was really no better for you pizza. There was Amy's, which was great. And there was certainly Udi's, which obviously was really centered on the gluten-free market. But there was not the type of players that have entered the market since that time. Creating a category means wide open spaces, right? It means that you can help actually define what the category is. The bad news is it's the wild, wild west, and you're learning really from no one. And there's a whole bunch of people that, say to you, you want to go into frozen pizza? Like, why would you be so crazy? Because basically in the frozen aisle, not only is it the most competitive set of the supermarket, but it's really filled with, multinational billion-dollar conglomerates. There are not a lot of independent brands in the frozen pizza aisle. So, good for CAULIPOWER, but also certainly made it hard at times.
For you to go into one of the most competitive or the most competitive aisle that you're looking at, but then define a category, it is a unique space that there is no roadmap for at all.
And that's, Darcy, what, one thing came in really handy back then. Ignorance is bliss. Because I didn't know how hard the frozen pizza category was, because I really didn't have a clear understanding of what these big brands were doing to maintain their shelf space, I somehow thought, oh, I could do that. If I had known, maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know. But sometimes ignorance really is bliss.
Sometimes you just jump in the deep end without knowing, right?
Sometimes you just do.
Hi, Jesse. What brings you to the airport?
Mike, I'm off to the headquarters to share an update on the big launch.
Oh, I've heard it's selling really well. Care to share your secret?
Well, just between us, it's all thanks to Bold Labs. Their exclusive digital test market research allows you to optimize your product, marketing, and pricing before the big launch.
That sounds fantastic. How can I learn more?
Just visit www.boldlabs.com. It's all right there.
This is the final call for Flight 723 to Chicago.
Looks like we'd better go. Thanks for the tip, Jesse.
See you soon, Mike. And remember, Bold Labs is ready to help your product soar.
So you launched and you grew really, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
I know you came in with a lot of marketing knowledge, but was there a learning curve on how to market a smaller brand, a high growth brand for you? Or was it all the same stuff you'd already done before in the past?
Marketing was never the challenge for me, to be honest with you. Because one, I had worked in it for so long, and coming from the consultant side of the business, I used to meet with a lot of CPG brands and I would tell them, oh, I think you should do this, or I think you should do this. And sometimes they would listen and sometimes they wouldn't. And most of all, I had a wonderful perch from which to watch all of these different CPG brands succeed or fail. Boy, was that valuable insight that I later used to build CAULIPOWER. I remember doing some pretty crazy things and thinking, well, I don't have to ask anybody. This is something I've always wanted to try, so let's do it. When you're a startup and you are trying to infiltrate and disrupt an enormous category, you do need to take some risks. You do need to do some things differently. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Now, I know you mentioned Whole Foods was your first major retailer that CAULIPOWER was in. Can you talk a little bit about that sell-in process and kind of how you went about approaching the retail sell-in process?
Sure. So Whole Foods has this wonderful program where you can sell your product into the region where you live. So I lived in the LA region, which was called SOPAC. So I pitched CAULIPOWER to this region. And basically, I had to take my pizza samples, which were, of course, the most expensive pizza samples ever made. These were not samples that were made in my kitchen. These were manufactured samples. So you really have to have a product before you can sell it. Some people don't realize that, which makes this a very expensive venture. So I dropped off literally in a styrofoam cooler with some ice, some dry ice in it. I dropped off 4 frozen pizzas, and I wasn't allowed to meet anyone. I wasn't allowed to give any information. I just had to drop off these pizzas, and I gave a little information, and I left it with the receptionist. And I sometimes joke that I remember like it was sort of like leaving your kids at daycare for the first time. I'm like, well, be careful. What are you going to do with them? Make sure you put them right in the freezer.
Make sure you heat them up at this and they'll do this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, was kind of, I probably took more time there than I did dropping off my kids. Don't tell them. And about a week and a half later, I heard from the regional buyer for Whole Foods who said, we tried your pizzas. We love them. We're going to bring them into 30 stores.
Gail, can you tell us about some marketing initiatives or sales initiatives that have been really powerful for the brand?
You know, I think one overarching element, we like to bet on the consumer. We think that the consumer absolutely knows everything about the product and everything about it that it should be. I think a lot of people, I'll just say CPG food, because that's what food I can speak more about. But I think a lot of people in food, they bet against the consumer. They don't think the consumer will know any better. And so we've always given the consumer that benefit of the doubt. And I think it's served us very well. And it has really built a unique trust and relationship with our consumer. And in return, they're very vocal with us. They share their feedback with us. We listen to it. We hear it. We respond to it. I think that's something that as a brand, we've done particularly well.
When you go to launch new products or new flavors, do you engage in that relationship? And can you speak a little bit about how you engage with them?
Yeah, sure we do. Like, look, there isn't a letter, email, direct message, phone call, transcript since the beginning of the company that I have not read. Not one. And I don't just read it. We don't just read it. We use it. We use it to inform us. So yes, we buy all kinds of data. I have an embarrassment of data for categories, what sells, what doesn't sell, what do consumers like, what do they don't like, more data than I know what to do with. But the most priceless data is the data that our fantastic consumers give to us because they care, because they want products from us. There's some things they see they don't like. There's a lot of things they see they do want. There's holes in the market. They point them out to us. So it is really this blending of like art and science that we use to innovate new products.
So we know we can always learn lessons in the successes that we have, but I'm a firm believer that you learn more in the failures, especially in launching a product. Can you tell us maybe a lesson that you learned or things that stand out as you've gone through the path?
I could fill the whole podcast with just things I've learned the hard way, for sure. But I will give you an example of something that was a failure that later became a success. How's that?
Oh, I love that.
Okay, yeah, that's a rarity, right?
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe it's not a rarity because that's the whole point is we're all going to fail, but we just have to learn from it. So we had a product. It was a baking mix. It was called a Bake Whatever You Want mix. It had cauliflower in it and some other flours in it to help people bake. And it was very hard to sort of give that control to the consumer, because sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't work. But obviously it was our responsibility. One day I got a call from an ingredient supplier who told me that they were going to stop making one of the fine grain of flour that we used in this baking mix, and that it would take about 6 months for me to find a replacement. And so I had no choice. I had to discontinue the product and let the retailers know. And some people were really upset and all of that, you know the drill. And then I had some laying around my kitchen. And, you know, the spirit of CAULIPOWER is really, as I mentioned, it's really about time. It's really about meal hacks. It's really about how do we make things better and easier. And I had some chicken lying around. I had some of that baking mix. I coated the chicken with the baking mix and I put it in the air fryer just to see what would happen. And I served it to my family that night and everybody loved it. And about a year later, our chicken tenders came to market, and that is our number 2 best-selling product. So it was pretty good example of success arising from a failure.
And not giving up on it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But also like admitting when you made a mistake. I think that's really important too. I'm super comfortable saying, oh, I screwed that up. You know, not a big deal.
So you've launched chicken tenders, as you said, chicken nuggets, pasta, the pizza. Is lunch number 2 any different than lunch number 1 or lunch number 3? Does the excitement wear off or change in any way, or is it always the first time?
That's interesting. I guess if you were going to continue the kid analogy, you could say that the first time is always the scariest because you don't know what to expect on the other side. I will tell you, nothing will be as you know, jaw dropping, you know, hair pulling, sheer agony than the first launch of the pizzas. That's launch number 1. And that will always be, you know, the what defined us and what made CAULIPOWER. Launches since then they're more exciting, to be honest with you, because you're not as nervous. You sort of know, oh, I can do this. And you have a lot more insights and a lot more data to support your rationale than you did for that first time. But they're still exhilarating. I mean, I can barely sleep the night before launch. And we have some really big and exciting new products launches coming out in third quarter of this year. So it's going to be a long summer. I can't wait for it to be over.
But like you said, with kids, I was there with you on the analogy of kids. Your first kid, you're terrified. And then you think, I can never love anything more than this first kid, right?
Yeah.
But then the second comes along and your heart moves over and then you love them just as much.
Yeah, exactly.
But you get to enjoy the ride a little bit more on the second child.
You get to enjoy it a little bit more. Yeah, you know, you can survive. Yeah.
So with CAULIPOWER launching story beginning in 2016, and obviously we're now in 2023. And as you said, you're about to launch some new products and exciting products in Q3. What has changed in the innovation? Like, is there anything that stands out to you that's changed more in how you're going about innovation or launches?
Obviously, we have a lot more data. That's really helpful. We tend to go for big categories that we can really make a difference in, categories that are ripe for innovation, that haven't been touched for some time. Everything we make has to hit on 3 elements. It has to hit on health and taste and convenience. And, you know, as I always say, it's easy to make something taste good. It's easy to make something fast, and it's easy to make something healthier. Really, really hard to do all 3.
Yeah.
And we've left a lot of products ideas on the cutting room floor because maybe they hit 1 of them or they hit 2 of them, but we couldn't get it to hit all 3. So we don't bring it to market.
Well, I know you've probably got a lot of very closely guarded initiatives and secret projects, but can you tell us anything about what you're working on today?
Some of the new innovations will be a line extension to what we have now. Others will be an entirely new category, and some will be pretty transformational.
And they will all hit all 3 of your points, right?
They will all hit all 3. That's right. I'm very excited. It's a big innovation year for us. I'm really happy.
Are you looking for product testers, Gail?
Always. Do I have your family raising their hands?
Absolutely.
Okay, I love it. Always looking for tasters and feedback and everything. Yeah.
Well, on that note, Gail, it leads us right into, I know you had an offer to share with our listeners to try the CAULIPOWER line. Can you tell us how they can get that offer?
Yeah, all they have to do is follow us on any of our social media channels on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. And they have to, and just use the word CPG Launch Leaders, and we will send them a coupon good for any product free. Not a discount, but for free. Who doesn't like free pizza or free chicken? So be sure and do it.
That is an amazing offer. So Gail, I wanted to thank you so much for sharing your story and really the journey of CAULIPOWER and how transformational it has been to the CPG and the food industry. It truly is stories like yours that remind us to keep innovating, stay inspired, and let's continue to redefine the world of CPG innovation. Thank you so much.
I love that. Beautifully said. Thank you. Such a pleasure.
Thank you, Gail.
You've been listening to CPG Launch Leaders, a show from Bold Strategies Incorporated. Don't miss the next thrilling launch story. Follow the podcast on your podcast player now. Please give us a rating, leave a comment, and share episodes with your friends. Until next time.